Hey, Mike Thompson here. If you are a teacher or a flight instructor, I want to make you aware of this book. I wrote this book for flight instructors, but it applies to teachers in general. It talks about the teaching and learning process, and what I'm emphasizing here is the fact that just telling things to students is not teaching. To be an effective teacher or flight instructor, we need to build a personal relationship with that student and work with them based upon what they need. So you can find me on Amazon, and see you next time. I screwed up the ending. Telling is not teaching. Try to find it at Amazon.com. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Epic Flight Academy. My name is Mike Thompson. To be successful in our online courses, a student must be studying this material in Epic's online Schoology course. And secondly, use these videos in parallel to that content. And then thirdly, be sure to review all of this content with your flight instructor. Great. So what's our topic today? Today, we're still talking about center of gravity, and we want to talk about the fact that the center of gravity can move fore and aft within a range. Okay, we know that. But what effect does that have on the aircraft's performance? Well, to start this discussion, let's remember back to our longitudinal stability when we talked about the longitudinal stability of the airplane and the fact that the center of lifting pressure is always aft of the center of gravity. No matter where the CG is in its range, the center of lifting pressure is always aft of that. So if the center of gravity is working down and the center of lifting pressure is always behind it, that is going to create a pitch down moment. And you recall from aerodynamics, that's why we need that tail down force. Now, that's important when we talk about how CG affects performance. What if we had the CG, the center of gravity, near the forward end of its range? Well, with a forward CG, the aircraft is generally more stable, it'll have a lower cruising speed, and it will stall at a higher indicated airspeed. Remember, with the CG forward, there is more of that pitch down moment, which requires a stronger tail down force. Now that means there is a greater total downward acting force, which means we need greater total lift. So that is going to require a larger angle of attack. What about if we move the CG towards the aft end of its range? What about these handling characteristics? Well, generally less stable, a higher cruise speed because there's less drag, and it's maybe a little more difficult to recover from a stall or a spin to get that nose forward and down. And we're going to stall at a lower indicated stalling speed. Again, remember that pitch down moment is what's causing this. When the CG is further aft and it's closer to that center of pressure pushing up, there's less of a pitch down force. That means less tail down force. That means less total downforce, that means a smaller angle of attack. So a smaller angle of attack is less induced drag. Okay, forward CG, more pitch down moment, more tail downforce, more total downforce, larger angle of attack, more induced drag. Aft CG, there's less pitch down moment, so less tail downforce, so less total downforce, so less lifting force, smaller angle of attack, less induced drag. So that aft CG will give me better cruise performance and fuel economy. The forward CG will be less efficient cruise performance and worse fuel economy. Now, what about weight? We've talked about the center of gravity, but in weight and balance, we also talk about weight. What about handling characteristics at the maximum weight? Well, the takeoff roll will be longer. It will require a higher rotation speed. There's going to need to be a higher angle of attack to make more lift because we have more weight. And there's going to be a higher touchdown speed and longer landing rolls. Well, folks, that is a brief description of the effects of the position of CG on aircraft performance. And you can see how this correlates to what we already learned about aerodynamics. Well, I hope you learned something today. We'll talk to you next time.